Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take the sources you send us, articles, research notes, whatever you've got, and really focus on what's important, what's surprising.
Exactly. We try to get you informed without, drowning you in information, digging a bit deeper.
And today's deep dive is, well, it's pretty interesting because the sources aren't the usual studies or reports. We've got excerpts from 2 different books. They read like stories.
Which is a great challenge, actually. Can we pull out real insights, maybe even some universal truths about, how life works just by looking closely at these narratives?
Okay, let's do it. First up, we're dropped into Sutter Creek, Montana. We meet Alejandra Brooks Flores. Contractor, seems very independent, driven.
Right, and she's got this huge renovation project, a lodge.
But here's the kicker. She's pregnant.
Huh?
And it was planned through IUI. But then, surprise.
Twins.
Twins. Which obviously changes everything. Think about managing morning sickness, dizziness,
Wow.
while running a construction crew.
Yeah, the physical side alone is huge, and then there's the professional pressure.
Totally. Project deadline versus her own due date in August. It's a collision course. And the source mentions she's worried, how will the crew react? The client. Especially now it's twins.
It's a legitimate concern.
So into this mix steps Graydon Halloran, local firefighter.
And quite a bit younger than Aleja. The source says he's had a crush on her for ages, since he was a teenager.
And he's got his own stuff going on, family-wise. Seems like he feels he needs to prove himself to his siblings, parents. They kind of see him as the baby, maybe. Less responsible.
That's the vibe, yeah. And it gets tangled because his older sister, Nora, she's Aleja's best friend.
Oh, wow.
And another sister, Emma, owns the lodge Aleja is renovating.
Okay, so it's a small town, very interconnected.
Very. Their paths cross because Aleja's truck breaks down. Pretty normal stuff.
But then they find a lost puppy together, Penny.
Right. And Gray ends up adopting her. So suddenly they have this sort of shared thing, a reason to see each other.
And it seems like things develop quite naturally from there. Gray starts helping out at the lodge.
Yeah, little things at first, moving boxes, helping with some tough tile removal.
Yeah.
And there's that moment where he helps with permits. The source says he used his forearms. Kind of a charming detail.
Yeah. They start noticing each other more. Aleja sees him on a ladder. He catches her watching him. You can feel the attraction building.
Definitely simmering.
And then boom, a kiss at City Hall. Sounds like it surprised them both.
Completely unexpected, it seems. But it's a turning point. The start of something, even if they keep it secret initially.
But the pressure starts building almost right away, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. The age gap over 10 years, that's significant.
And those family connections we mentioned. Your best friend dating your little brother, who's also getting involved with the contractor, renovating your other sister's place. It's messy.
Super messy. Plus, Aleja had this plan, right? Single motherhood by choice. Maybe because of past hurts, the source hints. She's hesitant to let someone else in, especially now with twins and the project.
Makes sense. And Gray's got his own internal stuff. Is he really into Aleja for her? Or is it partly about proving he's grown up, capable of commitment, maybe even being a father figure?
His sister Nora even calls him out on that a bit, voices that concern to Aleja. It's a valid question,
And all this leads to that difficult moment where Gray says he needs space, needs to figure things out.
Which, understandably, feels like a massive rejection to Aleja, given everything else she's juggling.
Yeah, tough timing. But the source doesn't just focus on the conflict. It shows Gray does care, right? Bringing her tea when she's sick.
Exactly. Worrying when she's exhausted, falls asleep on site. Those moments show something genuine, even when things are rocky between them.
And Aleja herself, just incredible determination. Pushing through the physical stuff to keep that project moving.
And her Abuela. Such a great character, offering that wise perspective, support, grounding her. Even that funny line about needing to deep dive into new music.
Love that. That support is crucial. And then the big turning point about Aleja gets hurt on the job.
Yeah, she breaks several fingers, a serious hand injury.
Ouch.
And this seems to be the catalyst for Gray. He steps up immediately, takes her to the hospital. He's calm, capable, makes her a sling.
Like firefighter mode activated.
Sort of. But the source shows how seeing her hurt affects him deeply. It feels like that's when he realizes his feelings are real. It's about her, about wanting to support her, not just proving a point to his family or himself.
And that leads to a really concrete action.
Huge. Aleja wanted to finish the lodge floor herself, this final touch, but she can't now with her hand.
So great.
Organizes this massive work party, gets his family, friends, her crew, everyone together to finish it for her. It's a powerful, practical demonstration of support.
That's commitment.
And it clears the air, they reconcile, decide to go public with their relationship, no more secrets.
You start making actual plans, moving in together.
Yep. Even his family seems to come around, accepting them as a couple. His mom gives some wise advice about age not being the defining factor.
So things are finally looking up. They're talking about the future, moving in.
And then, bam, right in the middle of that conversation, in the almost finished lodge,
She goes into labor.
she goes into labor. Sudden, dramatic, a real cliffhanger ending for that part of the story.
Wow, okay. So that's Montana. Now let's switch gears completely. Our second source takes us to a place called Love Creek. Very different vibe.
Very different. We meet Shanna Jacobs, teacher. Source says she has an impeccable record.
But she's caught in a major crisis. A scandal involving other teachers helping students cheat on the SATs.
Right. And her boss, Patrick, calls her in. He says he doesn't think she was involved. But he suggests she should resign anyway, for the good of the school's reputation, basically, because of the scandal's fallout.
In Shanna's reaction.
Immediate. Fierce. No way. She says, flat out, I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, okay.
She's determined to stay, fight it, and she has a very clear goal. She wants to be the next superintendent.
Okay. Ambition on top of defiance. Where there's more, isn't there? A personal layer.
Oh, yeah. A big one. Her boss, Patrick, his son is Lynx Harrington.
And Lynx is.
Her rival for that superintendent job, and also her ex.
Ah.
An ex who, according to the source, smashed her heart like crystal on concrete with some kind of lie in the past.
Oof. Okay, so this isn't just professional rivalry. This is deeply personal.
Exactly. Her history with Lynx seems to be fueling her fight now. It's not just about the job or clearing her name. It's about him. She refuses to let him win this, especially given their past.
And she confronts her boss directly.
Patrick. Yep. Questions his motives, even hints at nepotism since his son is her rival. She's not intimidated.
So her core drive, it seems rooted in her connection to this place, Love Creek. It's her home.
Very much so. Like Aleja feels rooted in Montana, Shanna feels Love Creek is hers. She won't be pushed out, not by the scandal, not by Lynx getting the job she believes she deserves. She's fighting for her name, her career, and her home.
Okay, so we have these two really distinct situations. Sutter Creek, unexpected love, pregnancy, family tangles, building project. Love Creek, professional scandal, past betrayal, ambition, rivalry, seemingly worlds apart.
On the surface, yeah, very different.
But if we put them side by side, what insights pop out? What can we learn from looking at both of these specific stories?
Well, one immediate thing is how they handle adversity. Both Aleja and Shanna face huge, unexpected crises.
Right.
Things that threaten their plans, their well-being.
Definitely. Twins and a broken hand while managing a massive project is one kind of crisis. Facing a career-ending scandal and a boss telling you to quit is another. Both are intense.
And both women are incredibly resilient, but how they show that resilience is really interesting when you compare them.
How so?
Well, Aleja, especially after her injury, her resilience involves accepting help. She leans on Gray, his family, her crew eventually. She's still determined, but she lets people in to support her.
Right, she collaborates almost.
Exactly. Whereas Shanna, at least in the snapshot we get, her resilience is all about defiance. Standing alone. I'm not going anywhere. She confronts her boss, digs in her heels, prepares to fight Lynx head on. It's more solitary, more confrontational.
That's a really sharp contrast. Resilience through, like, connection versus resilience through sheer force of will almost.
Yeah, leaning in versus standing firm. Another big difference is the role relationships play.
Okay.
For Aleja, the developing relationship with Gray and even navigating the tricky family stuff ultimately becomes her support system. It helps her get through the challenges.
It ends up being a source of strength.
Right. But for Shanna, her past relationship with Lynx is the source of conflict. It's the fuel for her fight. It's not something she leans on. It's the past pain driving her forward against him.
So relationships can be the foundation, or they can be the fire, depending on the context.
Precisely. And look at what they're fighting for. Aleja is fighting to build things, the lodge, her family, eventually this relationship with Gray. It feels constructive.
Building towards a future she maybe didn't initially plan, but embraces.
Yes. Shanna's fight feels more defensive. Fighting against being pushed out, fighting against a damaged reputation, fighting against her rival, protecting her ground, her past record, her future ambition.
So different kinds of ambition, maybe. building versus defending.
Could be. It highlights different ways we strive for what we want or believe in. And finally, both stories touch on this need to be seen for who you really are.
How do you mean?
Well, Gray struggles with his family seeing him as the baby. He wants to be seen as responsible, capable, which he ultimately shows through his actions for Aleja.
Right, he overcomes that perception.
And Shanna is fighting against being defined by this scandal she wasn't part of. Her boss asking her to resign is essentially asking her to accept being seen as tainted. She demands to be seen for her impeccable record, her actual abilities.
Not letting others define her narrative.
Exactly. So yeah, these stories, even though they feel like fiction, they offer these really interesting parallels and contrasts about resilience, relationships, ambition, and that basic human need to be valued for our true selves.
It really shows how exploring different scenarios, even these kinds of narrative sources, can give us, useful ways to think about our own lives. These struggles feel real.
They absolutely do. And thinking about Aleja and Shauna side by side leaves us with a pretty compelling question, I think.
What's that?
Well, if Aleja ultimately found strength by leaning in to support Gray, his family, while Shanna seemed to draw power from standing alone and confronting the challenge head on, what does that suggest about the paths to resilience? Like, what are the real benefits and maybe the drawbacks of relying heavily on support systems versus relying purely on your own internal grit and defiance when life just throws those completely unexpected, really difficult situations at you?
That's a great question. Leaning in versus standing strong, definitely something to think about. Thank you for sending in these sources, everyone. It was quite a journey from Montana to Love Creek today.